I will now call the January 6, 2020 Blue Springs City Council meeting to order. If you would stand with me, observe a moment of silence, and I will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I want to welcome you in attendance as well as those that might watch the YouTube video later on. Next, we have the consent agenda. Unless there are items that need to be pulled, I accept a motion for approval.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kaler.
Aye.
Levisay.
Aye.
Fowler.
Aye.
Erickson.
Aye.
Edmondson.
Aye.
Culpepper. Aye. Mayor Ross.
Aye.
Carried unanimously.
Next, a public hearing on rezoning the planned unit development concept plan. Application has been withdrawn. The next public hearing, we need a motion to continue that public hearing until the January 21st council meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have the introduction and reading of bill number 4722. Would like to introduce it? Okay.
First reading of bill number 4722, an ordinance approving a contract for legal services with Williams and Campo PC.
Move the bill be approved on its first reading and proceed to the second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Second reading of bill number 4722, an ordinance approving a contract for legal services with Williams and Campo PC.
Your Honor, move the bill be approved on its second reading and assign the appropriate ordinance
Is there
number.
a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Levisay.
Aye.
Fowler.
Aye.
Erickson.
Aye.
Edmondson.
Aye.
Culpepper. Aye. Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Ross.
Aye.
Carried unanimously. Given ordinance number 4878.
That brings the mayoral announcements, and I'm going to go. I'm going to go straight to Taustapunda. Tonight, and I quote, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." That's Eleanor Roosevelt, end quote. Next, we're going to go to visitors. And first, we're going to have Abbas Haideri. Haideri. Yeah, what you said. Yeah, what you said.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. It's like girl's name Heather, add a Y to it, Haideri. That should make it easier. Do I need to?
Yeah, tell us what you want us to do.
We're here to request a renewal or rehearing on the Adams Dairy Food Mart that we came for at the last meeting. We've looked at the design again, and we think we can propose some changes that'll reduce the number of variances that were asked for and potentially assuage any concerns that anyone had on the screening. And I think that'll make it into a nice looking project. And we're potentially going to reduce the size of the building a little bit, so that should take away the requirement for the open space variance. And we've got various ideas that we're working with on the back for the screening. So we request that this be continued and we get the opportunity to come back and present this again.
Okay, are there any questions of our speaker? If not, I'm going to go to Councilmember Edmondson.
Thank you. Would like to state that since that last meeting, I have had some conversations with parties associated with this, and they made it clear that they would like to help alleviate some of the issues that we had with the project and would like to come back. So I would like to make a motion to renew consideration of the Plan U Development Concept Plan for Food Mart. This, again, was heard on December 16th. It failed on the first reading, and I would like to have that set for public hearing again on February 3rd, where they can remake their new presentation with the amendments that they've made to meet our considerations of what we had expressed.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second, Your Honor.
Okay, is there any discussion on it? If not, we will roll call it, please.
Councilmember Fowler?
No.
Erickson?
Yes.
Edmondson?
Yes?
Culpepper?
Aye.
Kaler?
Aye.
Levisay?
Aye.
Mayor Ross?
Aye.
Carried with a vote of 6 to 1.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you so much.
And so staff will be in touch with you, and you'll be in touch with staff to get things worked out, to be able to come back for the first meeting in February.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Okay, now we're going to go to Mr. Casey. I'm going to start out with you, and I'm going to ask that if any point's been made by someone else, we don't need to repeat it, because we can hear. And so we're going to go to Mr. Casey for, do you want to speak on the solid waste, the hazardous waste recycling?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Mayor Ross and members of the City Council. I, along with the members of Green Blue Springs here today, were very disappointed by last week's announcement that our city would be ending our participation in the Mid-America Regional Council's hazardous waste program. We believe that this program provides a basic civil service vital to the continued health and prosperity of our community. Hazardous waste in particular can be extremely dangerous if not properly disposed of, and we believe that this decision has immediately put the plant life, animal life, water supply, and general health of our community at a greater risk of contamination. We are also concerned by the withdrawing, that by withdrawing from the program, we will be adding to the financial burden of other cities that are still participating. And we're concerned that the $50 drop-off fee, which is already pretty infeasible for most families, could end up going up even higher. We are here tonight to ask that our city leaders reprioritize recycling and waste management in the city budget in 2021. This latest action is part of a larger pattern of behavior that we have seen play out over the last several years. In 2017, the city made the decision to close the Pink Hill Park Recycling Center, despite heavy opposition from the public. At the time, we were told to work with the Solid Waste Commission to come up with a more cost-effective solution, and we did that. We went to every meeting. We did our own research to learn how other communities just like ours had managed to continue their own programs, even as the global markets created a new challenge for recycling. We heard from private sector experts in municipal waste management, from local haulers, from representatives of MARC, and from our neighbors. We developed and collected solutions and success stories from around the country. The Solid Waste Commission gave a presentation to this council in the summer of 2018 with a list of recommended actions. Green Blue Springs endorsed those actions as a good first step, but none of those actions were taken by this council. When asked why, we were told that the city wanted to see what the results of the upcoming community survey were before planning next steps. So we waited. When the results were in, it showed an overwhelming majority, 88% of residents favored restoring recycling services. Yet no actions were taken. Oddly, the same community survey was used as justification in the recent public statement for cutting the HHW program, despite having no questions related to hazardous waste in recycling. So we are back tonight as the city has again opted to cut rather than expand vital recycling services directly against the will of the majority of Blue Springs residents. I want to be clear that we very much understand the difficult position that you're in. After 3 years of research and investigation, we know better than most the financial challenges facing communities who recycle. But we also know that with careful thought and hard work, communities like ours all over the country have been able to overcome these challenges. With that in mind, we are asking you tonight to commit to 4 actions that we believe will help Blue Springs get back on track when it comes to recycling. Number 1, reprioritize recycling programs in the 2021 budget. We know that this will not be easy, but it is important that the City Council acknowledge that these programs are vital and that the public overwhelmingly supports them. We need both standard recycling and HHW recycling. Number 2, work directly with community leaders and activists to find cost-effective solutions for waste management and recycling. Through working with the Solid Waste Commission, we've found that to be a pretty ineffective solution because the Commission has no real authority to implement any policies and because they meet so infrequently. In fact, their last meeting was March of last year. We are asking you to work with us directly so that solutions can not only be identified but also implemented. For those running for re-election or higher, or election to higher office, we ask that you include a path to recycling in your upcoming platforms. We want to hear what your ideas are for how to fix this solution as well. Number 4, implement a citywide waste diversion goal to ensure that we are reducing waste in our community. When it comes to hazardous waste in particular, the more we recycle, the more we save. It costs the same to be in the MARC program whether 100 people participate or 5,000 people participate. So the more people we get involved, the better value it is to our community. Setting these diversion goals will ensure that we are getting the best value for our participation. Green Blue Springs will support virtually any policy put forward by this council that improves city recycling rates. We are happy to share with you everything that we've learned over the last few years, but ultimately it is up to you to set a course and decide on the path forward. What we cannot accept is a policy of inaction, or in this case, a step backwards. By the end of 2020, we estimate that an additional 850,000 pounds of recyclable material will have been thrown into landfills that would have otherwise been recycled at Pink Hill Park. In our view, this is just not sustainable for future generations. We look forward to hearing more from you and working with each of you in the coming weeks and months, and we continue working toward a better solution for Blue Springs. Thank you.
Any questions of Scott from the council? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Let me share just a few things with the audience. And again, I'm glad you said take a look for 2021 because the budget's already passed and we're in the midst of it right now for the 2021, where we started out with a $1.2 million deficit. Unlike the federal government, we cannot deficit spend. We have to spend what the revenue is. And we did several things to try to address that. One of the things we did, one of the things that affected that was we had $380,000 reduction in sales tax revenue. Now, one of the things that you probably, I hope you pay attention to it, on your streets, you see these gray trucks running up and down, says Prime on it. Those trucks are delivering goods to maybe you and your neighbors. We're not collecting a dime of sales tax on that, but they're tearing up our streets. You see FedEx trucks. You see UPS trucks. And I'm guilty too. Occasionally I get some things through the mail, so you got Postal Service trucks running up. We're not collecting a dime on those internet sales. So as consequently, our revenue continues to go down. Now you can help that. It's when the city council decides to put the use tax back on the ballot, that needs to pass if you want to start recovering some of that revenue that we're losing right now. Okay, food for thought. Also, we had a rise in health care costs for employees. And if you're public, your company, if you own one, if you work for someone, you know that your health care cost is going up. Well, the city is not exempt. Ours went up for our employees. And we had almost a $300,000 increase in annual workers' compensation premiums that we have to have. So there's some things that affect our budget. And hopefully you guys can help us deal with that. And I know you're passionate about the issue of recycling and hazardous waste of home products being disposed of, and certainly I hope our people are responsible enough to not start dumping it like they used to before we had those rules in place, because I know people did those. But when we prioritize, we have to look at the city as a whole. And the survey, I think, has been referenced a few times, the citizen survey, of which I bet you could guess what the #1 priority of the citizens of the city want as a priority. And that is maintaining city streets and sidewalks. That's always at the top. That's a priority that affects the whole city, everybody. But again, as you think about it, those trucks running up and down the street that we're not collecting the sales tax on are helping tear those streets up. So they need to be able to be able to recover and capture some of that. And I could go on, but I'm not. But I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that we don't take the decisions that we make lightly. in making a prioritizing the things that need to be addressed first, just as you have to in your household if you have a reduction in your revenue. So anyway, I put that out there, food for thought. How about that? Okay, so we have next, Scott, I can put you down there. Ezekiel Butler. Ezekiel, I think you've been before us before, haven't you, on other issues?
I have. Good evening, City Council. As the sheet probably indicates, I'm also here on the same issue that Scott Casey just spoke to you before. I found out about the announcement on Friday and was asked to speak in representation of the Blue Springs South Young Democrats. To begin, I'd like to reaffirm that me and my entire organization stand with Green Blue Springs on the request that they just made, and also the position that they have on the recent budget decision. Upon hearing this announcement, I immediately went into research as to human hazardous waste and all the glory that comes with it. In 2016, the Pew Research reports that set of recycling programs, specifically mentioned in regional programs such as the one Blue Springs formerly committed to, increased access to those is directly correlated to the amount of which citizens safely dispose of said hazardous materials. When said programs are not equally accessible, such as what this council has unfortunately done, it ultimately leads to said materials being improperly disposed, and which creates drastic harmful environments. Furthermore, to support this, we see that the Environmental Protection Agency, in its most recent report on said human hazardous waste, has also reported drastic findings. First and foremost, human hazardous waste is extremely common in America and with common day consumers such as you and I. And this ultimately leads to, when improperly disposed, harmful and drastic environments for both the environment around us and our community as a whole. Recently, I took the liberty of looking over the city's budget and soon found that part of the expenses and revenue was for the sake of A, soil conservation, and B, water treatment. Both programs are going to see drastic increases if we continue to allow human hazardous waste to be improperly disposed, as I mentioned before. The Environmental Protection Agency cites multiple instances in which cities got rid of said programs like Blue Springs has, and has led to drastic costs when it comes to soil conservation, park cleanup, and water treatment. All of which I would argue are some of the highest priorities citizens should have here in Blue Springs. The fact of the matter is the EPA also summarizes that when it comes to good waste management, it attracts industries such as biotechnology and green energy. And it also speculates that this is the future of the American economy in the next decade to come. I urge Blue Springs to move forward in order to be more adaptable furthermore. Finally, I understand the idea of going off of the citizens' basis and going over the survey of 2018. And while if there is indicators that said that this issue is not a priority to citizens, I oftentimes refer to Federalist Papers number 10, which Alexander Hamilton and James Madison refers to as fearing of the mob. When the modern day citizen is not as informed as you and I over said issues such as human hazardous waste, and it is not informed as to how much of a danger it can create for their community and their environment around them. So when offering priorities for how we should govern the city and where our allocated funds should go, I offer that while we should in fact listen to citizens' input, oftentimes public safety must come first. So which is why myself and the Blue Springs South Young Democrats stand with Green Blue Springs, and I ask that in the upcoming budget decisions, we reconsider our priorities, specifically that of human hazardous waste recycling. Thank you.
Ezekiel, I always enjoy having you here, and I'm certain that your organization will go out and work for passage of a use tax so we can have revenue to do those things.
Of course.
You know, you reference the EPA a lot. That's a federal agency, and I wish that they would allocate some money to local governments to help address some of these things that they keep talking about.
I also wish that too, Mayor. And unfortunately, with the rollbacks of the EPA's authority and power, it's unfortunate that they are unable to do so.
Okay. Thanks, Ezekiel.
Thank you.
Okay. Bob Chaney?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Let's see, I don't really have a lot to add. I think they've summed it up pretty well, but I would point out that it seems as though out of a $78 million overall budget, $27 million for the general fund, that the council might want to reconsider the priority of what you've heard from the colleague here. You know, you think about it, it may seem like only a few hundred people that are involved in the program, but the intangible value of it and the message it sends across the community, I think, is one that has great value to it. So I would ask you to reconsider that. Thank you.
Well, and again, I appreciate those comments, but if we don't fix the streets, we would have more than the people that's sitting in here complaining about it. So again, we're in a position where we have to make some tough decisions, and that's what we try to do. We understand there are a lot of programs out there that I would love to be able to keep if I had unlimited funds to do it, and this council as well. But
again, we all have to balance our budget. I understand and appreciate that. These are difficult decisions to make for sure. But it seems like in the prioritization scheme, there's an opportunity to maybe relook at that. Thank you.
go ahead. Okay, next we have Alice. First, she's a familiar face to most of us, maybe not to some of you, but she used to chair the Solid Waste Commission.
Yes, I'm Alice Fuerst. I'm from Fuerst District, and I am here to address the not including the household hazardous waste program in our budget
Can you
for this
pull that
year.
microphone down a little bit so you?
I'm not as tall as the other people.
Okay.
I fully support what the other speakers said, and disappointment in not including the household hazardous waste management program in the budget. Hopefully we can add it back in for 2021. Who knows? Maybe you all could add it back in for this year. But it's a very valuable program. You talk about, well, I was on the Solid Waste Management Commission for many years, 22 probably, and we've been through a lot of things. I do want to express a great disappointment in our current Solid Waste Management Commission. They haven't met since March. That's much too infrequently of meeting. We used to meet every month or every 2 months, always had something to talk about, educating ourselves, learning about what we should be bringing to you all as a city council. We should have a Solid Waste Management Commission that does the same thing now, and to be able to review these and express their opinions on whether or not to drop such a valuable program from the budget. You mentioned some things about money. I wasn't going to mention this, but you mentioned money where the roads being torn up. Many years ago, we did propose a way of reducing the 12 trash trucks that go down my street every day, every week. You all voted against any plans to reduce that, but you might want to consider that again if you're looking at keeping those roads from being torn up. So the trash trucks are out there in addition to those UPS trucks. Anyway, please reconsider the budget in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. It's good to see you again.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I would just like to say, when the city investigated having less trash trucks up and down the street, the city looked at taking the trash. I can remember walking into a room that you couldn't even turn around. There were so many people in there. And the citizens of this community came out adamant about not allowing us to do that. So we did investigate it, and I would like to investigate it again, but that's why it didn't happen at that time.
I know it was very crowded then. There were a lot of the trash haulers that were there that were filling up the rooms and all their families. Yes, a lot of people didn't want the city picking who their haulers are, but things have changed a lot since then.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just wanted to refresh your memory as to why it didn't happen at that time.
Yes, at that time we had a local hauler. We didn't want to put a local hauler out of business. Now we have corporates. And so everything is a lot different.
Yeah, and I'd like to visit that again.
Yeah,
also.
and we will revisit that. I think that's a point well taken because I remember it very well. And I see former Councilman Carter out there remembers it very well. Okay, I don't have any other visitors' appearance forms, and unless there's someone else, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Y'all want to stay here? We can stay here.
I have a question.
Okay.
Oh.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor, aye? All same sign? No. We adjourn.